The reason people think there's a scam behind insurance is there's not a clear understanding of what they're purchasing. So if I buy a car, I know I'm going to get this car with this mileage and this maintenance record. But insurance contracts can be written up in so many different ways that you think you're purchasing one thing, but you're really purchasing another.
Welcome to One with the Other Way, a podcast about your journey and finances. I'm your host, James. We have Wanda with us today, and we're covering Reddit questions on long-term care insurance. So we'll get right into it. The first question we have is, anyone have any thoughts on long-term care insurance? Hi, everyone. I am not posting in r/insurance because I figured that's more asking what is long-term care insurance as opposed to is it worth investing in long-term care insurance? The latter is what I'm wondering. I've been wondering about this for a while. My dad has some touch and go moments in the past few years, culminating in a week's stay in a hospital where they confirmed what I long suspected. He's suffering from Alzheimer's. My parents never invested in long-term care insurance because my mom always thought it was a scam, kind of like full life insurance. Obviously, she now wishes they had invested in it to help care for my dad. It seems too late for him to get insurance now, and the cost seems prohibitive. Better have that money go towards his care now. But since Alzheimer's runs in my family, I'm considering it myself. I'm wondering if any of you guys have invested in it and any advice you might give me. Also, if you chose not to invest in it, I'm equally interested in hearing why not.
Oh my, so many thoughts. I just don't know where to begin with that one. Lots of questions. I'm going to start with the most obvious thing from my perspective. Long-term care insurance is not investments. It's not an investment at all. It's a purchase of an item. In fact, insurance isn't even an investment. So any conflating life insurance with investments is run the other way. It is a purchase of a product. I was checking in on some of the clickbait that's out there, and someone suggested that insurance is really just an adulting safety net. I know a lot of people, like, they're thinking, oh, hey, maybe I am starting to adult. Maybe I am doing this adulting thing, this safety net thing. And another term I heard was consider it like in a subscription services. Neither one of those is exactly correct. Mostly insurance is a purchase of a product designed to provide you some type of protection. The question to ask yourself is, do I need protection from a financial mishap that will lead me to buy insurance? And if that financial loss, that financial mishap is around long-term care, then you want to think, okay, I'm buying a product that is going to buy protection in the event I need long-term care. Well, so how much protection do I need? In general, long-term care costs somewhere around $10,000 a month. Some states it's a little higher, some states it's a little lower, but it's expensive every month, $10,000 or $12,000, let's say. In general, the median time statistics tell us that people need long-term care is 4 years. So about half of us above, half of us below. If you're saying, I want to purchase protection for this long-term care event, you'd be looking at purchasing protection for a financial loss of around $10,000 a month over a 4-year period of time, something like about $500,000. And that's what you want to look for in long-term care and long-term care insurance. And do I want to buy that protection, or do I want to foot the bill for $500,000 of benefit or need or financial loss? Does that help?
Yeah, that's I think
It's a lot,
in general,
huh?
before we get into, that's a lot of information, but I think the one thing that everyone sees around it is that's a large dollar amount. Before we go a little further, can you just quickly touch base on the fluctuation in spending in retirement? Because we talked in previous episodes about the retirement boom boom years, which are the first few years in your retirement where you spend a lot of money. Do you feel people anticipate the needs of health spending at the end of their life accurately?
No, a lot of us don't consider what the healthcare costs are in our retirement. If you think healthcare is expensive as a young person, it is far more expensive as an older person, as this gentleman's finding out. Because when you were young, you were able to recover easily. When you're older, you need more care. whether it's a hospital or whether it's assisted living or whether it's an occupational therapist that helps you relearn old skills based on injury or age. You can never accurately predict. As you know, I have a crystal ball in my office, James, and I do want it to work, but it just doesn't quite provide product for me. And so I didn't pay that much for it. So I guess I must need to pay more for it. But 1 in 3 of us are going to need long-term care, like statistically, 1 in 3. Do you know if you're going to be that one person, or do you know if you're going to be the other two? Who knows? In this case, right, if dementia runs in the family, it's looking pretty promising that you're going to be in the one side, not the other two, the 1 in 3 that's going to need it. Yeah, you will need more money then. So in general, right, we go into retirement, and we talked about the retirement boom boom years, and you're spending money doing those fun things that you like to do. And then you slow down, and then you need more healthcare. And so then the money that you're spending on the fun stuff then goes towards the healthcare. That healthcare spending is one lane, but the long-term care is a separate lane. These are two different events. One could be health, and that you have an injury and you're going to go to hospital, get some recovery, get some rehab, and come back home. And then long-term care in general means that you need help such that you are no longer potentially independently living.
Well, this kind of leads into my next question and the next question that we have on Reddit, which is, when is the ideal time or age to buy long-term care insurance? And it says, I'm a 48-year-old female and my partner's a 55-year-old male. We're not married and we're child-free. My partner has no siblings. I do, but obviously do not want to be a burden to them or my siblings. We do have a history of longevity in our family, living into the 90s, and I'm just trying to think ahead.
That's great to think ahead. Again, my crystal ball fails me. So long-term care insurance is based on the age that you purchase it, right? You're purchasing it for a protection for a future event. And so in general, the time to get the insurance when it comes to long-term care is as soon as you identify the need. If you say, I don't want to be a burden, and I commend you, I think it's great. None of us should burden each other. We should take care of our needs. And part of doing that is buying this long-term care insurance. And so you should look at doing it right now. One of the great things about long-term care insurance is the fact that it has evolved over the years. And so currently you can actually buy long-term care insurance and pay premiums for a limited period of time. So say this person, 48 years old, can say, I would like to pay premiums for 10 years. And they can be done paying premiums for that long-term care protection by the time they're 58. They can structure the product such that it can be paid by the time they go into retirement. And so there's no financial stress. Okay, who's going to take care of me if I need long-term care? An added bonus, because this person has a partner, you can actually get a joint long-term care policy. So remember I told you 1 in 3 of us might need long-term care. If one of you needs it, the policy will protect for the one. If the two of you need it, the policy protects for the two. If one lives longer than the other, one policy's numbers fold into that second person, vice versa. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And again, long-term care is complicated. You want to keep in mind what you're purchasing. You're purchasing protection for a financial loss. This financial loss is the need for care that's quite expensive, $10,000 a month, something like around $500,000, the median. Bottom line, talk to an insurance professional as soon as you identify the need, because you're healthy. Once you're unhealthy, you're not going to be able to get long-term care insurance. The insurance company won't be interested.
I want to go back to one of the first things that was brought up in the first question that we had regarding the mother of the person writing the post thought that insurance was a scam. Because Wanda, you are an insurance professional as well. It kind of helped dispel this idea about what is insurance in the way of why are people thinking there's a scam behind this?
The reason people think there's a scam behind insurance is there's not a clear understanding of what they're purchasing. So if I buy a car, I know I'm going to get this car with this mileage and this maintenance record. But insurance contracts can be written up in so many different ways that you think you're purchasing one thing, but you're really purchasing another. So typically what will happen is we tend to look at cost. We tend to look at premium. How much is this thing going to cost me? And then I want to spend the least. And when I say I want to spend the least, we forget to look at all the components of the insurance contract, the insurance policy, to ensure that the insurance policy or contract has the thing that I want to be protected against or for. Mm-hmm. And that's where people run into problems, and that's why they think it's a scam. And it bothers me because I don't like talking about insurance, right? Because you're looking at a financial loss generally, right? So it's a time of stress and people are not happy because you've lost a car, you've had a health issue, you've had home damage. Yet, if a policy isn't well underwritten, we call that well underwritten, all the bottom line, you don't get what you want from the policy. And then the perception is you wasted your money. And you're probably right. You've wasted your money if you haven't looked at how it's underwritten. Does it give you the thing you need? So when you're talking to an insurance agent, what you want to be clear on is what it is that you want to protect for, and maybe a little bit less emphasis on the cost. And then one more footnote. In general, it's a good idea to work with an independent agent because an independent agent has access to more insurance companies. Somebody like me works with 23 companies. That's a lot. So once we can identify our protection, what it is we want to protect for, we can examine which one of these companies gives us the best product at your age, for your need, for what it is that you want.
That's an interesting thing. Bringing in the idea of an independent third party person that it's not tied to one individual company. You're like shopping around a little bit too.
If the agent is good, the agent's doing all the shopping around for you. So they're reading all the annoying contracts and they're looking at all the bottom lines. And last night I was spending time reading contracts for long-term care, and I was comparing two companies in this case. I had done an analysis. I looked at the 23 companies. I brought it down to 6, then down 2. And so then I'm really now honing in on the 2, and do they give me what I want? And then which one is more cost effective? I got to like page, 50 of, 102, right? You're like, okay, what about this line right here? How's that going to affect the contract? So I'm doing all the shopping for you. I'm doing all the annoying thing for you. And I think that's a savings of time for you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode on long-term care. If you have questions yourself about getting a long-term care policy, you can actually talk to Wanda. You can meet with her at financesforreallife.com. You can schedule an appointment with her on the top right of the page. And then we also have this podcast we post every 2 weeks. You can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Finances for Real Life, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.